Rainy day. I understand it really rained down on you.
Pouring.
Oh, terrible. Why can't the rain be more consistent? And it's so good to see you. And I'm anxious to talk to you about communication, and I know it's going to be interesting. And in the audience, welcome again. And I would say that I'm reading this introduction to our guest, who is Meredith Gardner, and I'm quick to add PhD, is a behavioral psychologist. And I said obiter dictum, the other, that spells B.F. Skinner to me. And her specialty is leadership styles, personality, and communication. As a consultant, her client list is impressive and includes companies such as the Prudential, American Express, Mutual of New York, West Point, and even the companies that manufacture the hula hoop. That's very good. Just quick, her educational background is vast, and she synthesizes the ideas so that they are practical for people to use in their everyday life. And she's suggested here, maybe I'll go on and do it, that our topic today, she's more of a structured person than I am, but our topic is listening. And I'm hoping she'll give us some skills as to do that better, because we can all listen better. And she has many stories to tell. She's a storyteller about others and herself. Welcome, Meredith. It says right here on the line, welcome, Meredith. But from my heart, I mean welcome, Meredith. It's so good to see you again. We've done a program in the past, and I give you back forth with your glasses.
You can
I
borrow
left
them
mine
anytime
at
you
home.
want.
So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you
Am
very
I off
much.
base when I associate behavioral psychology with B.F. Skinner?
I don't go there.
You don't, okay.
No, I'm talking about behavioral of human beings and the interaction and what thinking means and what intrapersonal means. Interpersonal meaning myself, intra, with inter
the other way
is the
around.
other way, right?
Yeah.
Intrapersonal.
Yeah, I understand.
How I communicate with myself. And
huge subject.
Interpersonal, meaning how I deal with other people.
Yes, right.
So I wanted to talk about listening and how that affects all of this, all of this mess that we seem to have with each other. So, how would you like to talk about listening?
Well, I would. It's an interesting.
I won't put my glasses
subject.
on.
You gave a thing. Let me take it here. I'll use your glasses again if you don't mind.
Okay.
And I'm going to get. You gave me another. I don't need it. I can see. You gave me another thing. Maybe I'll even try and hold it up to the camera. You could come in on it. And this is a piece of fact, it's called, and it's apparently validatable based upon good research and understanding around this issue of communicating.
Right.
We're talking about communicating.
Communication.
And that the listener impression, if we're communicating, there's a listener with whom you're communicating, and how are they receiving information? And this is a study based, I guess, at UCLA or something,
Yes.
but listener impressions that the communication is 55% is nonverbal.
Our body language.
Or nonverbal, and so that's facial expressions, physiology. See, I can't read very well. Questions. No, what is that other word? Gestures, that's it. Gestures or breathing. 55% of the communications, that's something Marshall McLuhan, I used to visit with, would have called body percept.
Yes.
It's a kind of gestalt kind of thing that's
Yes.
coming. 38% of the communication is voice, and that includes tone, tempo, pitch, and volume, the intonation and all that sort of thing. And only 7% of the communication are the
words.
actual words.
That's why we have so many problems using the internet.
Perhaps so.
Because we type away, and there's only 7%, and we can't see the person, we can't see the reaction.
Okay.
We can't see the gestures,
That's
our
really,
facial expression, there's no
right.
intonation.
That's really interesting, and we couldn't, and that's a linear. Marshall McLuhan used to say, he had the famous saying, the medium is the message.
Right.
That we would have a complaint about a new television technology that's coming, and the thing is that the new medium is using the old medium as their content, and everybody's focused on the content
Right.
about the words, and
Right.
what's really being communicated is a larger gestalt.
Exactly.
And so that's an important part of the way communication takes place in the real world, particularly, right?
Yes, and we don't understand.
Non-mediated, I mean.
Non-mediated.
Like we're communicating now
Yes.
by, okay.
Yes. By the way, we're sharing glasses.
Yeah, well, we have to
sharing.
because I left mine at home being a nitwit. You know, I forgot the glasses. I should not leave
you've got a
home
lot of
without your
pressure,
glasses. So,
Okay, so let's talk about listening.
all right.
First, I'd like to break it down from thinking.
Okay.
Because listening is part of thinking, what we do with our brain.
Okay.
You're lifting your eyes up. You're in the realm of visual. You're looking up and you're thinking. I can tell that you're thinking because your eyes went up. Okay, so thinking is in three parts. We think in words, we think in sounds, and we think in pictures.
Pictures, images, yeah,
So-
moving images too, yeah.
Moving or still. So, for example, when somebody is thinking in words, we think by remembering words and imagining words. So, for example, you could remember a conversation that you had with me, inviting me to be on the program.
Right.
Now, you can imagine in 3 months inviting me again. You can imagine that. Is that correct?
Sure.
And you have the words in your mind. So that's words. Sometimes it's called internal dialogue.
Okay.
So you remember internal dialogue or words and you create or imagine. Eyes go up, we're imagining. Okay, how about visual? Visuals, I'd like to ask you to remember, say, a Christmas tree, any Christmas tree from any time.
Oh, I got it in my head already, yeah.
All right, and very fast. We're faster than any computer, by the way.
Yeah, we're very good at
Very
pattern
good.
recognizing,
Okay.
yeah.
Now imagine seeing the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree coming up.
yeah.
You got
it
that
was
right
there,
away.
yeah, sure.
Okay, so you remember visuals and you imagine. Okay, I'm sure that you've heard a sound of a bell, a gong, a smash, a clap. That's a sound. You can remember my clap from seconds ago, and you can imagine some kind of clap, or say you imagine going to Carnegie Hall and hearing a chorus group sing your name, Harold Chandler, Harold Chandler. Can you imagine that?
Well, I can
or it's hard to imagine. No, just kidding.
I got waylaid there because the thing that came up as soon as I thought of Carnegie Hall is I have a dear friend who gave a presentation there, Ornette Coleman, and that immediately came into my mind was Ornette. I didn't know he could play left-handed with the violin, and he played it like an angel.
Okay.
So that just intervened.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
I associated it with Carnegie Hall.
I think that's great because what happens is that I gave an instruction. You got diverted, and when I was talking or saying something, you were thinking about your friend rather than what I had said.
And what
that's
happened when you said Carnegie Hall? That's what
exactly
came.
right.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly right. And what happens with listening is that if I am talking and you have something in your mind, you did two things. You heard a conversation and you saw something at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
That interferes with listening. So let me just do something. I want you to look at the rug.
I'm looking.
Look at my orange shoe.
Yeah, I think they're grand. They
Thank
look
you.
like
They were
really
my
good.
mother's
There's in the
shoes from the
50s, you said there.
50s, yes.
They knew style in those
Perfect.
days. Yeah.
And look at the lights up top. Okay, great. So clearly, you are able to put your attention wherever you want to put your attention.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem with listening. If somebody is saying something and you're listening or making an attempt to listen, there are a lot of things that can get in the way of listening. So right now I'm talking and you're listening, and there are a lot of things that go on in the brain and in the mind that stop you from being present. So, for example,
To listen to what's being
listening
said.
to what's being said.
One thing, could I interject?
You could.
Okay. When you say listening, that connotes to me audio or
Yes.
auditory.
Yes.
And I would say I'm going to be receiving communication would be more body percept and so forth. It's not just audio. Listening connotes audio, but it really is communicating as a whole organism. Is what I'm getting at.
Partially.
Okay.
Because when we have a conversation, in order to really fully listen, to be 100%, we need to be fully present. So as an example, when I'm talking, you cannot be thinking about or imagining buying a handmade rug. I'm just making this up. Because that would divert your attention to inside rather than the outside listening to me. Let me give you a terrible example.
Okay.
I did some television work years ago, and I had Polly Bergen as a guest.
She was wonderful.
She was wonderful, former Miss America. You know, I was talking to myself, preempting what she was saying because I was thinking of the questions that I was going to ask her. Well, that's not good listening because she was talking to me. I was in my head. In order to be a good listener, you have to be outside. The attention needs to be outside, not inside. So I can't be figuring out, gosh, where am I going to buy a handmade rug? And I can't be making visuals of the new rug that I want to buy and thinking about a conversation with a salesperson to get it at the price that I want at the same time that I'm talking to Polly.
When she's talking about something not relating to that.
Doesn't work.
Okay, that's interesting.
So
you're saying. You have to be present.
Present. And what that means, being present, is to say it in positive language. Your attention needs to be on the outside, as opposed to putting your attention on the inside. Now, putting attention on the inside is in a variety of ways. One is, if you were remembering a past Christmas tree, that's attention on the inside.
That's what I had when you first said it. There was one that I remembered particularly well
so
from
we
when I was
can't
13, I think.
When you were 13?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went right back. So we cannot have a dialogue externally outside here if you're remembering visually a Christmas tree.
Well, you asked me about a Christmas tree,
I
so that
understand
set it off.
But the conflict comes in when we are in the present. What I was demonstrating to you is that you have the capability to go back very quickly, to remember. And you also have the capability to imagine. That's done on the inside. When you go inside and you're remembering a picture or you're remembering words in a conversation, that's being on the inside. Let me give another example.
A movie scenario? I remember things a lot as movie scenarios.
But that's okay. And you also remember a dialogue that they're having at the same time. It could be pictures. It could also be a dialogue.
No, it's not only the words. It's the whole experience.
The whole experience and how you felt. And
no, I store information like in movie scenes.
All right, that's one way.
And I see movie scenes everywhere I walk. I see it like a movie.
Okay.
Multisensory.
Okay. So let me ask you. You drive or have driven in your life?
I was a very good driver. I haven't driven in a long time, but you never forget when you know how to drive or swim, I think.
The most crashes that happen on the highway is when somebody is driving and they miss the exit and they're thinking about a dialogue, or they're upset about something, they're talking to themselves, or they're thinking about the Christmas tree that they want to buy. They're not present. So they miss the exit, and then maybe they crash. So many crashes happen.
I don't quite understand. You mean they drive past the exit they should have gotten off?
Yes, or they just crash. They go beyond it, and they try and turn, and there are crashes.
Could I share an experience with you? It might be illustrative. I used to teach at the college. I was a college professor at New Paltz upstate.
Oh.
And in the autumn of the year, it's incredibly beautiful. And I was driving along the road, and I had different states of consciousness. And I had it, and it was it's dangerously beautiful because there was a maple tree. And the maple tree had backlight on it, and it was so
beautiful.
I'm driving in this car, and the maple tree was so gorgeous, so gorgeous, that I went into a swoon. And I went in, and I knew, and this would be interesting to a psychiatrist, because I was in a state of consciousness where I knew, I went into a swoon, and the car, with me in it, went right into the meadow off the side of the road.
I understand
and
that.
I knew I was not going over a crevasse.
Right.
But that I lost control.
And
I think that might have something to do that it was that damn tree that distracted me so and put me into a swoon.
That's correct.
So
you know
I
what
just
happened?
thought I would share that with you because you might find that interesting.
I do.
I think you would. Yes.
And that has to do with putting your attention in
on beauty.
In a different place than where it should have been, which was on the road.
Right. You should have both hands,
Right.
10 and 2, and always have it in straight ahead and attention right straight to the item at hand. Right.
That's
I'm not good at that.
That's a little bit of a diversion. My point is this,
Yeah.
Harold.
Mm-hmm.
In order to listen, we need to be fully present. In order for you to drive properly, you need to be conscious of what is on the road, not thinking about or imagining or connecting with the beauty of the tree.
Okay, there's a saying is people go through life keeping their eye on the road and never have a chance to smell the roses or to have any sense of participation with things like beauty and so forth. They're really important things.
It's a contextual thing.
Yeah, it's a linear thing of control and keeping conscious control and all that kind of stuff I can see. But do you understand what I mean
I
about
don't like those
not
words.
smelling the roses?
I don't like
Shouldn't
those
somebody smell the roses once in a while? Or do you
I
just
don't-
keep your eye on the road?
I have issue with a couple of your words.
I would have thought. yeah.
Control. Mm-hmm. It's not about control. It's about choosing to pay attention. It's a choice to pay attention.
Well, it has, in my way of thinking, if I may, a linear context. It's got a linear thing rather than a
choice, Harold.
A nonlinear or an alternative media thing. We haven't gotten to media. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting what you're saying.
I want to help you
But
understand.
it's complex, you know.
Well, and I'm trying to boil it down to its essence. The point of listening, to bring it back to listening,
Right.
is that we have a choice to pay attention to what's outside of us, and that's being conscious of paying attention on the outside.
Does that include maple trees in the autumn of the year?
It's contextual. No.
No.
No, it
You
doesn't.
shouldn't pay attention to autumn leaves?
You can, but it's the wrong time when you're driving. You don't want to be over there. It's about the context. So if you were having a picnic with friends and you decided to have the picnic right near the beautiful maple tree, you can enjoy it, but not when you're driving, because then you're going to veer away. Your attention needs to be on the road.
But do you realize what I said to you, that I had my consciousness at different levels, and I knew at a certain, I can recall it. It's like a movie scene.
Okay.
And I can recall it, and I knew I was not going to go into great danger.
Oh, well then, okay.
So I gave over to the beauty.
I wouldn't choose.
Now, you see, that's walking an edge between the two. It's conscious, unconscious, all these kind of things. And there's a room for that, it seems to me, for that in leading a fully
Let me ask you
engaged
something.
life, other than always on the alert.
Was it okay with you that you kind of smashed and you took the car and you did that?
Well, seeing as I wasn't going over a crevasse and there was I didn't end up dead,
well.
but I
wouldn't make that choice.
that happens in life. That happens in life, that you pay attention to the roses rather than just the steady pace. It's rather like a plow horse going down a plow and just keeping, and kind of dull to be always conscious and in present and in perfect moment, always, without being able to take things. And also, it's very linear. It's one-dimensional. It's like, See,
you're putting yourself in a box and you're saying, this is my interpretation.
Yeah, right.
I'm allowed to that.
No,
right?
it's a very important thing, yeah.
I hear you saying, I'm going to interpret you with my words.
Okay.
That it's like black and white structure.
Yeah, I don't like structure.
No, you don't like structure.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that you could offer yourself a choice that's contextual to drive and come back and see the beauty another time.
Yeah, but you don't take chance to. The trouble is, so many people keep their eye, and our institutions are all authoritarian, and people learn to block out those kind of things like smelling the roses in order to be practical. And it's a thing that is, artists aren't like that.
Okay,
artists are
I'm
different.
going to offer you a different perspective, if I may.
Okay, fine.
Listening is a contextual thing too.
Listening
because
or
you
communicate?
don't.
Listening connotes audio.
Listening
That connects audio.
Listening.
No, picking up all body content and being in an exchange with somebody, not just listening.
Being
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Listening is communication.
Well, communicating is different than listening. Listening connotes one audio function. Do you understand? I object to the term listening.
Yes, I do.
It's not listening, it's communicating.
I want to help you understand what listening is.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll tell you about communication.
Okay, good. Okay.
See, because what you're doing now is you're having a dialogue with yourself on the inside, and you are wanting to make your point to me that smelling the roses it could be too structured, and artists, are very structured, and they may not enjoy the moment.
No, they're not structured usually.
No.
Oh, they can be. It's a thing, a tension between discipline or the ego and the sub, the ego.
Harold,
and
hello.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Come back here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So you're going off on a tangent. What I want to do is I want to bring you here. That's what I want to help you understand about listening. I'll talk about communication after, but listening, I'm making the distinction between what's going on in my mind. Either I'm talking to myself, or I'm making up a conversation that I'm going to have in the future, or I'm remembering a conversation, or I'm going to imagine it, or I'm remembering the beauty of that tree, or imagining a very pretty tree. In both cases, I'm not present here. I'm in my mind.
Well, present where?
Here. You and I are in the chairs.
Everything's in the mind.
It is.
Or in the brain.
It is.
There's no other presence other than the brain in various dimensions, and we know how it works and things.
But we have present, past, and future.
Well, that's true, yeah.
We are in the present right here, in the moment, in the moment.
Yeah, be here now.
Be here now, in the moment. I'm not with a tree. I'm not seeing the tree in my mind. I'm not at Carnegie Hall imagining a conversation or with something. I am right here.
Well, when I was in Carnegie Hall, it was a violin thing.
You know how difficult it is.
I couldn't believe he could play a left-handed violin. He played it so beautifully.
Hello, Harold. It is so hard for human beings to be in the moment, and you are very auditory and visual, and it's going on. And for you to be in the moment, it's effortful, as it is for many people.
Okay.
So
I'm trying to understand. Yeah.
Okay. So if we are to be here in the moment now.
Oh, okay.
You cannot be rolling your eyes and imagining something else. It's the putting your attention, you and everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It is a challenge to put our attention on the present moment. It's very challenging because otherwise we're in our mind creating something or going back or thinking about something else or thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner or thinking about, sex or what I'm going to, thinking about the rain and I'm going to be.
You got rained on, I'm sorry.
I did get rained on, and I was committed to coming here.
Yeah, yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So if we are to have a conversation, I can't be remembering the rain, how it made me feel.
It's all there somewhere. All those images, all those things are in your mind.
It is.
Like
stored.
engrams or something.
It is stored, Harold. Here's the challenge.
Yeah.
To be in the moment of what is. You know how challenging that is?
Well, it is. I'm trying to understand it. What is would be in the moment that...
You and I...
What would that be in terms of two people communicating?
Right here.
One person talking, the other one listening. You use the word listening.
Right here, now.
Okay, yeah.
See, I would know if you were thinking about that tree or thinking about something else other than being right here. I would know.
I only did it as a cue from you. You said something. It's like two guys playing. If you play a trumpet and I hear something on my trombone, we're going to start playing.
Okay.
It's a communication thing.
Okay, then let me give you a different example.
Okay.
Let me just go back and say what is in our mind and our thinking is in three parts. We think in words, we think in images, and we think in sounds.
Okay.
And when we do that, either we're remembering those words, images, or sounds, or we are imagining, it interferes with the present moment. So if I am reading you a story or a magazine article,
right.
if I'm reading a magazine article, and you are thinking about
something else.
The difficulty that it might be for your guest to get here tomorrow because it's supposed to snow.
Oh, I see. You're distracted from what is being. I see. That's so simple. Yeah, that I understand.
It's not simple,
Well,
Harold.
it seems simple to me, yeah. If it's interesting, I'd be focused on it.
Well, okay. Then that has to do with your intention, because it's disrespectful. Not just you, but anybody.
Yeah, anybody, sure, yeah.
Anybody. It's disrespectful to be in a conversation with somebody. You're talking to me, and if I don't find your content interesting, I'm imagining something about tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know at some level that I'm not here with you. I'm some other place.
Yeah, right. I think that probably
And
happens
it's
a lot, doesn't you think? I think a lot of people don't hear other people.
No, we don't, because we're here, but
Maybe
we're not
what the
here.
other people are saying isn't interesting to you.
Then, see, then we can say...
They're talking about lumbago, or they're talking about something you don't care about. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Because the communication is a two-way thing. It's not a one-way thing where you just listen.
Okay.
If you listen to Christian Murday, you can listen to him for an hour, and he could go on, and it's all contextual or poetry or something really worth listening to.
But if you happen to like him, but what happens if you don't happen to like what he's saying?
Well, then you would turn off. You wouldn't listen.
But what happens if you can't?
Why would you pay attention to somebody who's boring to you?
What happens if you're in a conversation with somebody?
Yeah, conversation.
Conversation, and you're not particularly interested in what the person is saying. And it could be that you're at a cocktail party. It could be with a friend. It could be with a child or a student. And somehow there are some interferences. You have your opinion, and you want to shove it on them. Come on, we do that as opinion machines.
Well, I think so. Don't you think that happens in,
yes, it does.
in communication?
Okay, let me give you some other examples.
Okay.
I want to finish my thought.
Okay, sorry. You're talking. Oh, you're setting a different context.
Okay. So it could be that you had an opinion about it.
Right, or a thought, or an intellectual construct, or
Harold,
something. Yeah.
I want to finish my statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had.
No, but see, some of it. Look at this. See, part of listening, which is really great, is this 55% of the facial expressions.
Right.
So if you're listening, if I'm saying something, I can tell that you're not interested because
I'm not.
Right.
Well, if you're not interested, should you feign interest even though you're not interested?
That's a very good question.
Well, I'm just saying.
That's a very good question.
Or also, I really find everybody interesting.
You do?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to challenge that.
I
don't think so at all.
I find everybody interesting almost without exception. I find everybody interesting.
I'm going to say something.
I can get in a conversation with somebody on the bus, and it's really interesting.
You could. That's because...
I do it all the time.
That's because you've initiated something. But I'm going to interrupt that thought, if I may. And I'm going to say that I think that you, just like all of us, we end up in situations where we just may not be interested in what the person is talking about. And what happens is that...
Well, or distracted
Or
sometimes.
we're distracted, or you fake it, you want to fake it, but you know...
I don't like the faking,
no,
do you?
it's
I
not.
don't like
the faking is not nice.
No.
So I would rather say, Harold, I don't understand what you're saying. That's not my area of interest. Yeah. You might rather talk about freedom of humanity and not having any grades for students. You know what I would say?
Yeah, that I
Harold,
like, yeah.
I understand you, but I don't really want to talk
right,
about that.
Right, well, people say that all the time.
No, they don't. I don't think they do.
Oh, well, they do with their body language and everything. Or
they do with the facial expressions. Or they do it with the physiology. They kind of turn around and they're going like that.
Well, that's okay. That's life. I mean, that happens all the time.
It is life, Harold. What I'm saying, though, it's not a very good way to listen and let the other person know that they've been understood.
Well, everybody's going to listen and
is.
nobody's going to ever say anything? Or I don't get it where you got everything all on the side of listening. It's a communication. It's not a one-way thing.
We haven't gotten...
I mean, we don't have a one-way thing where all we do is listen to whatever there is.
You know, if somebody doesn't give me the time of day to respect me and at least give me the opportunity to say my point, I won't want to even give the person a chance to talk or to listen with me, because I feel disrespected because of these, the facial expressions or the physiology of the person,
or much less
lets
the words.
me know,
Suppose somebody
or the
said,
words,
or if you're in New York, they say that's a bunch of bull crap. I don't want to hear that. They'll tell you right out straight. You know, you get that. You know,
or how about if somebody is speaking very quickly and I don't understand, my mind can't keep up with them, and their volume is very high. I can't absorb it. I don't understand it,
How do you
and
deal
I don't
with
want
things
to.
like that? I have a hard time. I like everybody. I'm Will Rogers. I really do. I like everybody. And I like dogs, and I like cats, and I like birds. I like everything, almost, but I do have trouble with people who are...
Do they like you back?
Yeah.
How do you know that? Have you ever asked them?
That's my impression. You asked me. That's my impression. I do. Yeah, I got a lot of friends all over the place. I got almost everybody's a friend. Get along with everybody, you know, very well and everything.
I mean, we're
like
not going out to ask people, does Harold Channer respect you? However, I can say that as a guest, if you speak over me, I don't feel respected.
Well, how much
and I
should
don't
the
feel
guest...
heard.
Okay, that's good, because I
don't feel heard.
I do a program called Conversations. So a conversation is different.
What is that?
Well, con is with, isn't it? It's a conversion. It's a conversation.
Con also is against.
But I would back to, yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's not a speech. It's not a dialogue. I mean, it's not a monologue or anything like that. It's different. But I wanted to go back to that thing about, I get trouble with people who are, I think you're saying the same thing, maybe in a way, with just blatant arrogance. There's a lot of arrogance and things, and when somebody's really arrogant, I have a hard time dealing with that in a way in which I can incorporate this person as somebody I can relate to. And I tell you a secret, as a psychologist, you'd probably be in. You know what I do in a situation like that?
What?
I go into a thing. It isn't as bad as I'm confessing in a little sense. How do you deal with somebody when they come in and they're being very, as you say, arrogant and everything? And I go into a mindset where, and it used to be worse. It's not as bad as it is. I'm getting older now. But it used to be, if somebody would come in, they'd be there.
Wise, not older, wise. You're getting wiser.
I don't know if I am or not. But anyway, it used to be, I would see, like, it was a defense mechanism to do something like violent or something. But it would be like this, and there would be, over here, my mind would separate, like, in a way.
Yes.
And there would be it would be like there's a camera. You and I are, and this guy's, used as men, you know, men are, anyway, they're like that, and they would be, and then I would see, there would be a camera over there, and I would be looking in a certain part of my mind's eye at what's going on in the present, detached, as though I'm looking at a movie.
That's correct.
And
it's
then
called being
it got to be,
dissociated.
it got to be like where it always took a humorous edge.
Yes.
And so there would be like, it would be like I'm looking at a movie, which is the reality.
Yes.
And then I would be and I would use humor to laugh at the absurdity of the guy, and my mind would be in a certain sense saying, isn't it great? I'm in a movie, and they sent this guy over from Central Casting, and his role that he studied hard to become the embodiment of a schmuck. And he's acting, you know, like an arrogant schmuck, right, as they say. And I would just then be able to finesse it, except it got tricky because I would be laughing at the movie like I'd be laughing at Charlie Chaplin movie.
Right, except he was
But
right
I'm
here.
in the present.
Exactly right.
Now that would be something a psychologist could really do something with, I guess. But that's my way of finessing
ask
arrogance.
me, I'll tell you what it...
Tell me, Dr.
Dr.
Freud. Tell me what it... Or Mr...
you detached yourself. It's called dissociation.
Is that what they call that?
Dissociation.
I don't do it so much anymore, mostly because I don't run into people... Well, anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to digress, but that's a
Harold,
defense
you know that
mechanism.
You know that you digress and you interrupt, and the reason is I'm going to give you the reason.
Okay, good.
You do that because you are conjuring up something in your mind for the next thing to say. It's like if you could be present with somebody else's conversation and hear the conversation on the outside,
Yeah.
And that's difficult for many people, you included. Myself as well. I can't be having an opinion at the same time that you're telling me something. So that character...
Well, you're listening. You're not listening.
No,
you're not listening. You're telling me I'm not listening. You're not listening to what I say. And what a conversation is not one way. And life isn't all listening.
No,
is what I'm saying.
No, it's not.
It's a combination.
But the person has to be able to finish a thought, Harold.
Yes.
And I want to go back to the dissociation of you used with that guy who was a schmuck.
Well, I just shared that with you like I did the tree when I drove in the meadow.
Do you want to know what I think about? I don't think you want to know what I think about.
Well, I do too. I do. I was just trying to make a friendly conversation.
I understand that.
About it. But it's not all listening. We're not all here
Harold,
just to listen to other people.
I can't turn you off. I can't turn you off.
No.
I could if I had more time with you. But what's happened is that you get revved up, you have your ideas floating, you're talking to yourself and other ideas, and that interferes with a particular silence in listening.
Well,
because it's an energy that you bring.
Well, okay.
And without that degree of calmness or silence, there's an interference. And I really wanted to explain about I know it's just an example, but in order for you to get through that conversation with that arrogant schmuck, you had to do something in it with that in your mind to make it ludicrous so that you would laugh and that you could have some connection, because after all, he was on your program.
No, he wasn't on the program.
Oh, he wasn't.
It happened in life.
It
would happen in life.
Okay,
it's a way.
But it's a tool.
But I get along
use
with everybody, more or less. Sometimes people get upset because I put it into context, in a larger context. And I think. I'm a thinker. I'm not just a listener of other people. I mean, a conversation is a two-way thing. I think people don't want to. If you brought it personal to me, and I'm on conversations all the time, get a lot of people say, "Why do you interrupt?"
Yes.
When the other person's making a point.
Yes, and I can tell you the reason that you interrupt.
Do tell me. Then on the here.
You've got stuff going on. You're talking to yourself in words, and you're making images, and that interferes with the conversation that you're having in the present moment. Because you can't tell, just like I couldn't tell with Polly Bergen. I talked right over her.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Right.
Because I was creating thoughts in pictures and in sounds and words in my mind, and I was in my head. I wasn't outside paying attention to her.
Okay.
And that's an interference. It's like static, you know? So when I clear my head and I'm fully present with Polly, then I won't be asking those questions that I've asked several times because I didn't hear what she said. Now did you do more than one program with her? I did several programs.
Several programs, and it was always the same, you over talking her and everything?
Not just her, I over talked on a lot of people.
You did, okay.
Until I was taught that the brain will not allow us to be inside, talking to ourselves and making images at the same time of being outside, seeing and listening.
Oh, that's an interesting statement. I don't understand. Is that schizophrenic or what? What are you talking about?
It's just the way the brain works.
Well, the brain is a very complex thing. We don't understand it very well. We haven't known how it works in the last 30 years.
But I'm only talking about thinking. I'm not talking about...
Well, thinking is different. Yeah, that's different. And feeling.
It's the thinking.
There's feelings and all kinds of things.
I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about thinking.
Thinking.
I'm talking about words and sounds and images.
Yeah.
And when I have that in my head, I can't be listening, paying attention on the outside to other people because I'm doing activity in here. And that's what people mean when they say, well, Harold, you don't listen. You don't listen. Or, you know, I asked you something and you're not hearing me.
Yeah.
You know, it's because you've got a lot of mental activity.
Yeah.
when you stop that mental activity, just for the moment, this is not for life. It's only for a few seconds until the person gets it out.
Yeah.
And then...
What do you do? Okay, go ahead. Finish, and then I'll make a point.
And then that's where the communication comes in.
Thank you. Now, can I make a point?
Sure.
Now, we're conditioned to do things through the media. We're in the media and so forth, and people are overly conditioned toward, particularly academics and so forth, they're particularly conditioned to having what is called a presentation. And they're used to like a C-SPAN thing where somebody who's got really something good to say or something really important, they will make a presentation and they'll even have it outlined. You know, they used to have an outline of certain, you go like this, and then we go to 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 this.
That's linear.
And they want to, it's linear.
Yeah, linear.
And they want to lay out their linear pattern. They got a pattern they want to lay out and that kind of stuff. And what would you do when somebody comes on and then they say, welcome to the, and that's what you get a lot of in in traditional television. You get somebody sitting there and their role is to say, welcome guest A, tell us about your book.
Yes.
And the person has it all laid out about how this follows this follows that, this follows that. It's all within in a certain pattern.
Yes.
And they would take the whole half hour and lay it all out. They've already got it laid out, and they don't want you having any interference or anything else coming in or any kind of an exchange. And then 15 minutes after they've laid out a good bunch of that, then they would say, and could you elaborate on it? Then they could go on and go on. They would want to do a linear construction that they've got very carefully specialized, worked out, and that's what they do. I'm not.
No.
That's what they object to. They want to have it so that they can just lay out their thing.
Right.
And not have any interference with that. And that's not what I'm here for.
No.
I want a conversation.
You're a lateral thinker.
No, I'm a comprehensivist, yeah.
Well,
people don't like comprehensivists, they like specialists.
Well, here's the difference.
And they've got the tunnel vision. In my view, they're tunnel vision. And so you want to put their tunnel vision in a larger context. They don't want to put it in a larger context. They want to elucidate their tunnel vision view of things. So I'm not there to be a pretty face and introduce them to have them lay out their thing. It's a conversation. It's a combination between the two. It's like two people playing. And it should be about 50-50, I would say.
Okay,
but they're not used to that on television. They're used to a person giving a long lecture.
An outline.
A lecture.
Yes.
Yeah, structured. That's what they're used to.
Okay.
And that's why they're prejudiced against the idea that why bring up anything that doesn't relate.
Okay.
It's their problem, not mine, in my view.
Well, let me give you...
Because I don't think they listen to me.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why it's hard. You're what is called a lateral thinker, which means that... I'm also a lateral thinker, too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not linear. A lateral thinker is able to go on tangents. You say this, you go that. This leads to, it's like a mind map. Are you familiar with mind mapping?
Not really, but I do have something else.
You take a central
Would you want me to
piece.
Introduce a thought here now that's relevant? Or
Well,
not? Or should you want to develop that?
No,
you make the point.
Yes, and
then
you
I will.
Yes, great. Okay.
I used to explain that to the sergeants in the Army.
Now they don't want to hear. Okay. So you'll have a central point, and then say we're talking. Oh, we're talking about. Say we're talking about communication.
Or we are.
Okay. There are many parts of communication. So there are a lot of different, like the sun with the rays. There are so many things that we could talk about with communication. Listening, body language, tone of voice, tempo. I would add belief system.
Right, sure.
Assumptions.
Yeah. Ideology. Politics.
Nation.
Gender. Justice.
Perfect.
Non-renewable energy. There's all kinds of things.
All of
and
that.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it's all one thing.
Now, see, you have an ability to jump from one to another.
Oh, that's what I would want. That's what we want. That's what we need.
you want, but a lot of people can't keep up with that.
Exactly. I'm saying the world is linear because we've all been structured within a context.
Well, it's also personality.
Well, it
Harold.
is personality,
and
but particularly intellectually, everything's specialized out in linear.
Okay. Well,
Tunnel vision. That's why they don't get any comprehensive overview. That's my brief against the way people think.
Let me help you understand something. At presentations, as an example, what happens is that the people think laterally inside, but it's easier to follow the recipient has an easier time to follow linear.
Yes, it's easier. Well, look, you've got the whole educational process is nothing else than probably developing and getting rote things where you do things linear. That's what they call education. The whole educational system, all of our institutional structures are linear. Everything is set up that way.
Right.
Now, could I introduce the thing I was going to introduce,
Go
the
right
idea
in.
of communication?
Sure.
There was a friend of mine I have, Mark Stallman. Some people know that. Bob Dobbs, he's a Joycean scholar and everything. But Stallman is his friend. So there's an association between them. He's great. And he was a young guy. He was an investment banker at Brown. And he took AOL public, among other things, when they went public with the AOL. And his father was a scholar, a real scholar. And he conveyed to me that his father was in the room with Norbert Wiener, who is the father of what we call cybernetics and everything. In the room, about 1946 or 48, with about 12 guys, when they coined the term cyber.
Oh.
Okay, now cyber, and he had a thing, he said, information overload permits pattern recognition. And we are coming into a situation where there is information overload within a world that's all been conditioned for linear thinking. And we have a commitment to linear thinking. That is being subsumed by the cybernetics and going. But it permits pattern recognition. So rather than going in great depth into one particular subject and having a linear construct, you can see at a level, there's information overload over here and confusion, and at another level, you can relate that system to that, to that, to that, to that, to where you can actually get to comprehensively including various specializations. Right. All of our education is totally specializing. Everybody gets so specialized out so they won't think about everything in a comprehensive way, and they have tunnel vision about the thing that they're interested in, whether it's politics or whatever, and they don't want to have a comprehensive understanding of things that can begin to subsume their linear constructs. That's the problem of communication, because they want to have linear constructs, whether it's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a socialist, all these different kinds of things. And what we need is comprehensive overview as the whole world begins to get ready for a massive liberation and alteration in universal consciousness, and nobody's talking about the overall pattern, except a few people, poets and artists and that. And so that's what they object to. The systems that we have inherited and by which we interrelate with each other are outdated by the evolution of consciousness that's about to take a giant step from 200,000 years ago. So if you have a vision of something like that, then it's really hard to get all excited about the tunnel vision that somebody's going on about without trying to put it into a larger context. It's called vision.
I understand that. The only thing is,
and nobody listens to that. Nobody will take that there is larger context within which that which they're talking about can be put. I would say that's the problem. As far as interrupting, you're not interrupting. I mean, it's a conversation.
How do you take your ideas?
Did you hear it?
I do. I did hear it, and I'm thinking that you, with your constructs and
comprehensive, dear, not specialized.
Comprehensive constructs.
Right.
My issue is that because you are so lateral and you move as quickly as you do, that some people might not be able to get it.
Of course, that's obvious. Because they've got a thing, like they're going to have a hard time understanding something.
Whose responsibility is that?
Well, I don't know whose responsibility.
Is it your responsibility?
Buckminster Fuller was somebody that was worth considering. James Joyce.
Right.
They had real understanding of what's going on, rather than the special interest, economic and all kinds of professional ego interest in various things by which the human scenario is all set up and everything. They had a comprehensive overview of it. Most people are only motivated by how they can make money to buy bread and these kind of very simple things that they have. They got these kind of things, and those are outdated, and things are being comprehensively, we're coming into a new relation. There's a qualitative transformation taking place. So it's been intellectual, and it would be good for there to be but I saw both Buckminster Fuller and Marshall McLuhan on the black and white television when I got back from a year and a half of dissertation work in Bolivia. on the subject of the Aymara Indian civilization as a cultural hearth in the New World. And they both came out and they said to intellectuals, dare to be a comprehensive. They have no university department anywhere of everything. There's nothing, the divisions are all artificial. The disciplines are the granting, the institutional structures, the grading, setting them up to be wage slaves within a system that's controlled by a few people that's out of date with what's required. Liberation is at hand. We're coming into a new relationship to the universe, and it's not to be found in any one of the specializations. It's going to be in a comprehensive, synergistic residency of the whole.
I was just going to say the synergy of it.
Yeah.
So
that's the difference between people who want to have we don't have a vision. We're on the verge with weapon systems that can wipe out the system, the whole species. We have that now. It could be set off by one person. Now that is not sanity, and we need something new and different. And there's no point in just going over the same old ground along the same old linear constructs of the same old specialization.
I totally agree with you.
So that's all it is.
Okay, but here's the issue. I don't know whether you've ever heard this statement. It comes from Neuro-linguistic program.
Yeah,
NLP.
Neuro-linguistic, yeah.
The meaning of communication is determined by the response you get.
Well, okay, I'm trying to understand. Go on.
So I'm going to give the example of your comprehensive, synergistic new systems that we hope that we're reaching for. That's the vision.
Right.
The issue, though, is that some people, a lot of people, most people, may not be able to think in the way. Now, I'm not even talking content. I'm talking ability pattern recognition.
We're very good. Human consciousness.
Recognition.
If we don't beat it out of kids, they're very good at pattern recognizing, and we beat it out of them by setting up linear constructs.
You're able to synthesize a lot of different concepts. Okay. So,
and interrelate a lot of different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's the way human minds are good at.
I want to say something, if I may. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't think like that.
Well, that's most everybody, I would say.
So therefore, if that is the case, the meaning of communication is determined by the response you get. That means that you have this vision, and the response you get is, duh, you know.
That's not the response I get. That's not the response.
What is the response?
Mostly the response I get with people I communicate is a very positive one. I get along with people very well. No, not really. No, they don't want to hear that.
Oh, they don't.
One thing, like if you say economics is too important to be left up to the economists.
Okay.
Oh no, they're going to take care of the economists. Mr. Geithner, they got to do things different. They got to be bringing other things in. They don't. Or you got specialists. They call them a president, or they call them the head, the stars within the economic disciplines and so forth like that. And they don't want to be thinking of it in a larger context. If you bring up the idea that we're at a time of a qualitative transformation that involves the whole of the human society within a Gaia principle, John Lovelock gets all kinds of trouble for seeing the earth as an organism. People get into new thinking. Galileo, they only let Galileo off the hook about 12 years ago in the Catholic Church for saying we're not the center of the universe because it messed up people's sense of identity. So if you're talking about the institutions are going to be subsumed, all your institutions are going to be subsumed within a new pattern of liberation.
How are you going to get the message out?
They can't. Well, how else are you going to do it but to bring it up? And the trouble is people are not thinking that way. They're thinking in terms of reifying the old, outdated institutions.
Okay.
That's the problem, in my view.
55%
body perception
of your communication
is
determined. Everybody. I'm just using you because we're talking.
Yeah.
In order for me to get your message, 55% of your communication is determined by your facial expressions, your physiology, your gestures, and your breathing. So, for example, if you're all excited about it, I'm going to pick up excitement.
Don't you know I've known that for 40 years, and that's why I'm in television, and I'm not writing books or doing anything that way. And the linear perception, we're so entranced with the linear thing of writing, stringing everything out into a thing in order to get some sort of meaning and give legitimacy. It's outdated. That's why literacy is going.
But Harold, how are you going to get your message
Well, I'm doing it by calling myself a conversations television program. program where I do body percept and have communication with people and get people with good ideas
think it's
like
a monologue.
Well, they do not. Well, if they do, that's their problem, not mine.
Well, okay, so let me go back to the NLP precept. The meaning of communication is determined by the response you get. So, for example, if I feel like I can't get a word in edgewise, and I know people have said sometimes you don't listen. So
not,
if they
not
feel,
usually.
If
it's
they
about 10% of people get that problem. About 10%.
Okay, so...
And sometimes you're not feeling right. I mean, I'm not feeling right. You're not always perfect on too.
Okay.
Because what you're talking about is real communication. That's what matters.
Exactly.
Where you get new patterns. That's what matters, not just elucidating.
But Harold, in order for you to get your message across...
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming now. Can you believe what's coming now? You can do everything with nothing.
Hello. In order for you to get your message across, it's important that you be present.
I am.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder because I might be here and I think that you're, in an intergalactic conversation with somebody. I mean, I'm just telling you from me.
That's okay.
So. And if the meaning of your communication is determined by me, the recipient over here...
No, it's not.
Well...
Except to the degree when you get where there's resonancy and people understand.
But maybe you don't care what other people say.
Well, I do. I do, and I get along with everybody. I can get along with everybody. I don't think I have an enemy in the world. I get along with everybody. And I'm also very encouraged that things are moving right. I think we've got about 3 or 4 months.
But see,
and we're going to get things right comprehensively.
See, I don't think that you allow it. Let me tell you, it's like the emperor has no clothes. When I get opinionated, and I do, that doesn't make me open and receptive and vulnerable. So if you think that you get along with everybody, I'm here to tell you, I don't think...
that's my impression.
Well,
I don't think I have an enemy in the world. I can't think of anybody.
Well, enemy is kind of strong.
No, you just asked me.
It's kind of strong, Harold.
No.
But look, let me go back to...
We've only got 2 minutes left.
Okay, linear and lateral thinking.
Not lateral, linear and comprehensive.
Well, I call it lateral.
I know, but that's prejudice, language. It's comprehensive.
That's your point of view.
Yes, everything.
That's your interpretation.
Inherently, everything is interconnected with everything within the universe. There are no divisions.
Okay, I say the word lateral, and I don't want you to make me wrong for saying that word.
That's because you're coming out of a discipline called psychology, and they are not really come up with right understandings. I don't know where they come from. With all due respect.
Even if it's a made-up word, don't tell me what I think or not to think.
Okay.
And see, that's an opinion. Yeah. And when you interject an opinion in a way that a message can't be received, that causes difficulty. See, you've got a big message.
Yes.
And if people... Yes,
and I wish people would listen to it rather than being nitpicking about some little thing.
Then I'm suggesting to deliver it in a way that they can understand it.
I'm trying, but you can't get them when they won't listen. Nobody will listen to the idea of comprehensive.
Yeah. Then it's up to us. Look, I have a lot of messages, and somebody said...
get a program and put it on. Do a program and have people come in, and you could bring them into your, to make it it should be on television. It's going to be holography. We're coming into unlimited bandwidth. The communications is coming. The time is coming for a qualitative transformation in evolutionary terms, punctuated equilibrium. We're coming into a new relationship to universe. These things are going on now, or we have on the adverse side
the ability. Do you think that most people are going to understand
the
what
ability?
You just said?
I don't care if they do or not. That's the fact.
That makes
coming.
You arrogant.
It's in time.
It makes you arrogant.
Doesn't make it arrogant any more than say 9 months is up. You're going to have a pregnancy change. You're going to have a change of consciousness. That's the reality in which you sense. If you do that, you ought to let people know. And that the other adverse side of that is holding to the old ways, the linear ways, and so forth, are going to have to be subsumed.
Can it be a duality
or
of both?
We're going to be.
We
have
both?
The weapon systems that can destroy, for the first time, the entire human species, or we're going to have a new relationship, speciation, almost, in terms of our relationship to the cosmos. That's a comprehensive context worth considering once in a while, and people don't.